Well, George Kirkpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. It's time to check your money with America's money maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Vicki.
Hello, George.
Is it spring, summer? What is it this week, huh?
This week is summer.
Okay. or this past week, right? I guess we got to say it that way, right?
Well, yeah, I guess we have to say the past week has been summer, and I'm expecting summer going forward, but I didn't check the little weather gauge this morning before I went out. But anyway, it's been a glorious week for sure, and I'm sure many people there in central New York and all over the East Coast really are very happy with what's happened over the last 6-7 days. So, George, saying we're really happy about what's happened over the last 6-7 days, I think it's time for me to sort of step back for a second and ask you a question, because I've had a lot of guests on, and you and I have not had some long one-on-one conversations for a while.
Here we go. Unrehearsed even.
They know, absolutely, everybody knows that who's still in charge.
Okay.
That's Vicki, George, right?
All right,
okay.
Let's go.
So, George, here's my question to you. Do you really know what inflation is and why the Federal Reserve is doing what they're doing and what impact it may have on you? Do you really understand what's going on? Is my question about inflation. Tell me.
Well, listen, I mean, if you really want me to tell you what I understand that my purchasing power has decreased. That's one. Prices are going higher, and the value of my money isn't going as far as it has gone. And so the dollar today is not worth as much as it was yesterday. Basically, that's my short way around trying to answer your question. But what I could use some more education around is why the Federal Reserve moves, how that impacts their efforts to help to limit the impact of inflation, because we're seeing all across this country, including some major cities, where it's through the roof. And President Biden has finally admitted that, yes, this is happening. This is a real thing under his administration. So that's what I understand. How did I do?
You did really well, because you gave me a lot of things that I'm going to have to try and unpack in the next 8-10 minutes, and hopefully we can do a pretty good job on it. So if you recall,
yes,
I started to feel and sense that this was about to happen.
You told us
about, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago, and I put a chart out, and the chart was the history of interest rates over the last 200 years. And everybody probably went, won. That is so doggone boring, Vicki. Why in the world are you talking about it? But what I was doing was trying to set a framework of understanding, because the interest rate environment for the last 30 years has actually been extremely positive relative to what happens in an economy. When I was, and you probably had this happen when you go to school and they make you study stuff and you go like, when in the world am I ever going to use that? Well, finally, okay. Something that I was taught in school, which was, if you really want to understand the economy, don't watch the stock market. You watch the bond market.
Okay.
The bond market, or interest rates, the bond environment the bond market is actually 2 to 3 times the size of the stock market. And it is the lifeblood, it's the money flow, it's the engine that drives the economy. Because what do we say about all the time? We need access to capital. Well, where does that come from? It comes from the stock market, but it comes more so from the bond market. And so what happens in the interest rate environment and what happens to bond prices and the supply of money that's available for businesses and available for your borrowing, all the things that we do is driven by the bond market. So that chart that was looking at the 200 years of interest rate history showed us something that was really important. And I hope everybody can remember and frame this up, but we'll put the chart out again. The highest level of interest rates was in 1981. The lowest level in interest rate history over that 200-year period was when? 2020.
2020.
2020. Feels like a long time ago, just around the corner, okay?
Right.
2020, actually August of 2020.
To be exact.
Okay, and that was right on the tail end of what?
Well, we were in the middle of the pandemic.
We were in the middle of the pandemic. Okay, so what happened during that period of time? Okay, if you think about it and you actually go back and look at that chart, you will see that we have been trending down the mountain from 1981 all the way to August of 2020, with interest rates steadily dropping, because the even during the time period when we had the financial crisis, even during, although there was a little uptick, but it came right back down, even during the time period of the dot-com bubble, even during the time period of the, because I'm thinking of all the things that happened since I've been in business, the S&L crisis, the position, the momentum has been for interest rates to go down, 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 down from their peak, which was in 1981. Why? Because the economy was running, as they say, on all engines, even through through 9/11, all of those things, and the money supply was continuing to grow, but it grew at a much more rapid rate during the pandemic than it has in any other time or any other time in recent history. Why? People needed money to survive because jobs were being shut down. Jobs were being shut down. We all had to go home. We all had to eat some kind of way. And so the federal government, along with the Federal Reserve, that's the Treasury, the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve made a decision that those kinds of things needed to happen. All right, so why is the Federal Reserve now saying we need to change course? Here's the thing about money supply. Remember our equation, supply and demand.
That's right.
Supply and demand. We got more money. What are we going to do? We're going to demand to buy stuff, right?
That's right. That's right.
But there's no stuff on the shelves.
And the prices are sky high.
No. Before they were sky high, there were no things on the shelf.
There were no things on the shelf. Supply chain stuff. Supply
chain issues, because we all went home and nothing was being produced. And it wasn't just here in Syracuse or here in New York, it was all the way around the world.
Yeah, because I was telling you I was out in Long Beach, California, and they were
just told me, remember?
Those containers were sitting there and they wasn't going nowhere.
They were going nowhere. Okay. All the shipyards were shut down. Everything was shut down as far as China was concerned. Shipyards all the way around, coming through the Panama Canal, everything slowed down. So supply dwindled, but we had lots of cash in our hands. And since we had lots of cash in our hands, when supply finally started to unwind, the amount of cash, the supply outstripped the demand, and prices started to spiral up at a more rapid rate than we've seen in a long time. But here is the thing I need everybody to understand. Interest rates for hyperinflation in 1981, what was the number, George? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Okay. Interest rates back in 1981 topped out at 15.8. 15.8. What is it today? What is it today? 3.9. Okay. Okay, 3.9 is the number that we're dealing with, and it should be 3.09, not 9, 3.09.
Yes.
That's a long, long, long way from hyperinflation or those hyper numbers. So What is the Federal Reserve trying to do? We don't have brakes on the economy. You know, it's not like a car where you can say, oh, okay, we need to stop this and just hit the brake and stop. It's a push-pull. The Federal Reserve has two responsibilities: full employment and to manage inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never want to go back. I'm not boohoo. I'm not, just discounting. We never want to go back. I lived at 81, and that's, like I said, business still ran, and I sold a lot of houses because I was in real estate at the time during that period of time. But we never want to go back to 19% mortgages. God, no. But we still sold houses, put people in.
People had to move, and they had to.
Okay. But here's what's going on. The Federal Reserve has to find an equilibrium between a couple of things: decrease the money supply, and decreasing of the money supply. That's what you hear about bond buybacks. We're not going to buy back. We're going to unwind our balance sheet. Our balance sheet is basically think of it as the net worth statement of the United States government. We're going to decrease our balance sheet and stop buying bonds back and putting more money into the economy. And we're going to raise interest rates. I don't know if you boat, George, but a lot of people out there do. It's very similar to when you're trying to dock a boat. Your motor's on and you're coming into the dock and you're coming in too fast. That's inflation. You've got to throttle back so that you can bring the momentum down and get back to an equilibrium point where you can stop the forward motion. That's what they're doing with the raising of interest rates at that. They started out at 0.25%, still too hot. They didn't see it slowing down enough, didn't see evidence enough. So they brought it up this time to 0.5%, which they believe over the next 2 to 3 meetings that they will raise 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and that will start a throttling back of the rate of increase so that the supply-demand dynamic, or what they call the financial condition, can become more stable and equalize in a range. You never get an exact point, but a range somewhere between 2 to 3.5 is what they're aiming for. And we got a little evidence this week, that has starting to happen. It's a little evidence, so I won't say it's absolutely starting to happen. But we saw an increase, but the level of increase, the percentage change, started to throttle back. That's good. The challenge is going to be not to do it so fast that we start to drift backwards, like the car's trying to come up the hill and you didn't have enough gas in it. You got to the top of the hill when it's snowing and you start to slide down over there on Midler Avenue. You can't get to the top and you start to slide down. You got to get an equal amount of torque going up so that we can stay in an equalized position. And that's their responsibility. So now for you.
Yes.
What does that mean for you?
I was going that's all nice and good, but what does that mean for me?
Prices are going to stay up for a while.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way. But the rate of increase will start to slow down. And that's what you should pay attention to. It may be high and we still gonna fuss and fight about it, but the rate of increase should start to throttle back. And as the rate of increase starts to throttle back, the supply-demand equilibrium will start to set in. What they're shooting for most is not to have that rate of drawback get too accelerated so that layoffs start to happen or a recession. And I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna say that word just one time. It's not anywhere in the cards at this point in time because we still are in an inflationary period. But the throttle back appears to have started to happen. And you should just watch your pricing, say like, oh, it went up a nickel last week. Oh, it only went up 3 cents this week. Oh, it only went up 2 cents this week. Oh, it didn't go up at all. That's what you start to see, a stair step backward. And then you'll know if what they're doing has any impact or is having the impact that we wish. Did that help, George?
That does help a little bit.
Okay.
The reason why I say that because it's basically I'm going to translate that even further.
Tomorrow, right?
Right. I'm going to translate even further. We're going to have a little bit pain. We're going to have a little bit more pain for a minute. That's basically what you said.
That's exactly what I said. So what should you do? Here we go. pay attention. I was talking to someone the other night, one of my clients, that said, you know what? I want to start to see some collective purchasing. I said, what are you talking about, Vicki, collective purchasing? I said, you know what? You and your mama and your sister all buy toilet paper. Why are we going to the store 3 times and not going to the store 1 time and buying in bulk and dividing it in 3? Because the cost per roll is significantly different when you're buying in bulk than when you're buying in smaller quantities.
Right.
Look at your purchasing process. Same thing with all types of hardline commodities. What I mean by hardline commodities, canned goods and things of that nature, paper goods, okay, because paper goods have also gone up quite a bit. Things that are happening as far as your bulk buying capacity. Work with, what's the word? Collective. I always get the
for Kwanzaa.
Yes.
Collective working responsibility, Ujamaa.
Ujamaa. Okay.
But the other one, but Ujamaa is cooperative economics.
Okay, Ujamaa is what I want.
Yes.
Ujamaa, okay.
Yes.
This is the time to practice
Ujamaa,
the way we can talk about it at Kwanzaa.
Talk to me. You speaking to me now, Vicki. Let's go.
Okay.
How do we make it practical in our lives every day?
Every day. Okay. So Ujamaa, okay. Yeah. And walk up to people and make sure that they understand, okay, what it means and why they should practice that at this point in time, because you will absolutely see a difference in your budgets. You will absolutely see a difference in what you're spending if you do so. Now, as far as your cars are concerned, carpooling is not a bad idea right now. Think about, in your household, do we really need to run 2 cars to church?
Right.
I'll go in the same place.
Right.
Okay. Think about what's happening and plan your scheduling a little bit better, so that if you have 2 cars and you're going basically in the same place or similar direction, that we can cut our gas bills a little through Ujamaa, okay, throughout, okay, cooperative economics. There will be some pain for a little bit longer. And what I say a little bit longer, I think probably 6 or 8 months. This time, spring, okay? But we will see differences happening. And what we're looking for most is that as those differences happen, that where we plateau will be at an acceptable range. All right, George, that was really a lot.
That was a lot.
Okay.
but here's the takeaway. You told us what inflation is. You told us what the causes are. You told us what the federal government's role is in throttling it and trying to control it. And you gave us some practical tips on what we can do in the short term so that we can lessen the impact of this inflationary times. And you reminded us that it's going to be paying for a minute. How about that for a summary?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to let you write my summary. Okay. For the show. All right. So, okay. For anyone who has additional questions, feel free to give us a call at 315-930-4499, or you can reach out to us at info@brackensfsn.com. Like, share, and follow us on YouTube, and also follow us on Facebook. Well, George, I think at this point in time, I'll say our plate is full, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.
All right, it's full of a lot of stuff. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and the registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. She is America's money maven.